Yes, sir.
You guys have won 2 games now, and I think in 2 different fashions. Like, I thought the Laker game was really just, for lack of a better term, pretty game, and you had to grind this thing in Memphis. How do you see this game right here unfolding?
Yeah, every time we play them, it seems like it's more of a Memphis-type game. They're very talented, second youngest roster in the league, but a lot of talent. They play hard. We know they're going to attack us in transition. They attack the paint. The leading offensive rebounders are their smalls, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, so they fly all over the place. Our first chance to play against Chet Holmgren, very talented, big player that's versatile, shot blocker, can knock down the three. And they're probably one of the more exciting young teams in the NBA. So, these games, they always feel like, for me, Scott, that it's like going to the dentist. You know, it's a hard-fought game, nothing easy. They got to make you work for everything, and we understand 2:30 tip-off. You know, we have to have an urgency to start this game. This is their home opener, so they're going to be geeked up to play. 2 good road wins at Chicago, at Cleveland, and we have to be better in the areas that we've been concerned about, and hopefully we find some progress tonight.
I'm curious, how do you evaluate what the bench does? Is it points that you need off the? Is it plus minus? Is it Jokic on off? When you look at what the bench did in that last game, how did you evaluate it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be like a slave to the stats, if you will, like or just the analytics. You look at some of those things, but for me, it's just the eye test. You know, I mean, how are they playing? That group's going to play hard. You know, that has to be a given for them, Chris. That group has to go out there and outwork their opponent every night. I thought Reggie, played really well that last game. I thought Peyton was great in that last game against Memphis. The things he did on both ends of the floor. Zeke Naji working that glass, getting us extra possessions, getting foul calls on them. And then each game, the hope is that they'll continue to find more and more on-court chemistry. That group has not played together a lot because of guys not being able to play in the preseason. So we're kind of doing this as we go. But I think it's probably a combination of all those things. You look at the different numbers, but the eye test, how comfortable are those guys playing? What are the areas of concern, and finding ways to help them along with that?
We know KCP is a great defender, but the first 2 games of this season, have you seen him improve on the defensive end in any way or take his game to the next level there?
Well, he's been outstanding. He's won the Defensive Player of the Game award twice. The job he did in Memphis on a player like Desmond Bane. When you watch the game, you saw it, but when you watch the film, and then we showed film the next day, it's kind of like, and I told our team, I said, learn from this. Watch what this guy does and why he's so effective. And the ability that he has, like, if you want to simplify the game of basketball, it's all about separation. Great players and great teams create it, and great defenders take it away. And KCP finds a way to negate any type of separation. And he'll have a hell of a challenge today against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, an all-NBA player. But I think the one area is sometimes he can get so locked in on his matchup. He's got to remember there's also a team defense and understanding what his role is within that team defense. And then transition. I think as he's made a concerted effort to make sure that he's not one of the guys committing UBs where the shot goes up, he's waiting, he's watching and not getting back. I think he's doing a better job of being in tune to the overall game plan as well as the transition defense and as well as his ability to defend a marquee matchup every night.
We saw last year, and it was so evident, and you mentioned the losing Jeff and Ish, but that veteran leadership, all the bench during games in the locker room. Have you seen an increase from the guys that were here? Because you got a lot of new faces this year, too. Have you seen the guys that got to go on that ride last year doing kind of the things that those guys did?
Yeah, and one thing I've talked a lot about for this year, anybody can do it. We welcome leadership. We welcome a vocal presence on the court, in the huddle, in the locker room. But I really want Jamal and Nikola to be the leaders of that. Can't always be on DeAndre, can't be on KCP, can't be on a Justin Holiday, veterans. I want our young players, and Nikola's 9 years, Jamal is 8 years. I want those 2 players to assume that. And I've seen both of them early in the season be more vocal. And it's not just, as you know, it's not just being vocal, it's also being present and having the requisite presence, personality, and voice. And I think those two have done that.
Coach, would you ever consider having Nikola and Jamal be co-captains of the team?
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in naming captains and co-captains. I think that's a lot of times that's BS. A lot of times the guy's got a C on his chest. He's not really a captain. Captains are guys that do it when you hit adversity. Captains are guys that do it behind the scenes and not for everybody else to see. So we have a lot of guys that have stepped up over my now 9 years. And once again, I want Jamal and Nicole to kind of take that mantle and make this their team, because at the end of the day, this is their team.
What have been your initial impressions from watching Chet on film?
Talented, yeah. I mean, you look at his size, his length, and his skill level. I mean, he had 7 blocks against Cleveland the other night. He's 5 of 7 from 3 in 2 games. Capable ball handler, playmaker. There's some really young, exciting players in the league right now, and Chet Holmgren is definitely one of those guys. And watching guys on film is one thing. I always like getting a feel and seeing them on the court and getting a feel for them. And I'm excited to see him today, because long-awaited home debut for him here in OKC, and I'm sure the fans are going to be excited to see him out there.
Well, my question, Mark was just talking about this a minute ago. I think there's a lot of respect here for what you guys have built, obviously, and kind of the thing that comes up a lot is the commitment of your players at Jokic and Murray. Do you see any parallels to what they're building here to what you guys have done?
Well, I hope that we can be an example for a lot of teams. And when I say that, obviously, I was, given 8 years to win a championship, and not many guys in my seat are given that amount of time. So all credit goes to Josh and Stan Kroenke, Tim Connolly, now Calvin Booth, for having the patience to let something take hold. We live in a world, we work in a business where everybody wants instant gratification. It's hard to get. You have to draft well, and I think Sam Presti, obviously the job that he does. Mark is, I think, a hell of a coach. Draft young players, develop those young players, and give it some time to come together. And I think they're on that path. Last year, they were in the play-in. They had a chance. They ultimately lost to Minnesota. And I think as you go into this season, there's a lot of excitement about the Thunder because of who they've added and just the continued maturation of guys like Shea and Josh and Lou and Jalen Williams, all these other guys. So they're definitely poised for success. And, part of being a champion for us was going through failure and adversity. And if you look at the history of the NBA, all great teams, all great players have had to go through the same thing.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, everybody.